Hello, everybody, and welcome to Absolute Comics. I am Sal, and I'm joined today by Dan. Benny's out for the day, but listen, let that not be a test of the excitement and awesome that is coming to this episode. We're going to be talking about so many things. Spider-Man's birthday, Nintendo movie, Nintendo Studios is filing some kind of copyright document. This is the kind of whirlwind excitement you can come to expect from today's episode. I'm so jazzed. Dan, thanks for jumping in and pitch hitting today.
Yeah, of course. We got some, couple little
Humdingers.
topics that are, I'm sure we could get some talking points out of them.
I have no doubt.
How have you been? Have you read any comics that came out this week?
The only one I have had a chance to read this week was Dark Crisis, and I had a preview copy of Amazing Spider-Man 3 that I was like, oh, I should read this, and I just didn't. But I did read Dark Crisis, and I will tell you, the art's fantastic, and I enjoyed it. I think it's kind of fun. Like, if you can feel the impact of like Future State and 5G and what Infinite Frontier was leading towards and all this stuff, like, you can feel it. Like, everyone was speculating, right, about like how 5G was like, well, they're going to get rid of the old guys and they're going to replace them with a new Justice League. And we saw, actually, I think Williamson wrote the Justice League book for Future State, which was, Far Sector Green Lantern, Yara Flor Wonder Woman, John Kent Superman, Jace Fox Batman. In this book, he's like, we need a Justice League. So he goes to all the Future State characters and they're all like, nah. Like, what? And then you see the Justice League he puts together, and of course you probably saw it already, because if you're online, you're watching podcasts about comic books, you probably have already also seen the leaked like page reveal of the Justice League, and I think it speaks for itself. Like, it's the team that is assembled is it's like an homage representation team, but not representation in terms of like diversity, but rather of the legacy of the DC universe. Like,
right,
classic, old, new, young, old, like members of the league are all here and represented, and I think it's built to die. Like, this team is built to be destroyed. So that'll be fun.
Oh, gotta love those ones, especially because with Joshua Williamson, you never know if he's actually going to destroy him or if he's going to be like, nope, this is it.
This is it. This is what we're. Yeah, this is the league. This is the league. I would not be too attached to this league, because I think what Deathstroke's planning and where it's going and the previews of Dark Crisis #2, it's like, oh yeah, no, things are going down. It's exciting.
So I haven't actually read that one yet. Is it at all related or have any connections to the Shadow War that just happened, like the big Dark Deathstroke stuff?
Oh yeah, no, Shadow War leads directly into Dark Crisis.
Okay.
Like, yeah, no, Shadow War is important. It sets up Deathstroke as like the main bad of the street level Earth-centric element of the Dark Crisis, as opposed to the Great Darkness, which is out in space and doing its thing.
Right, the massive overarching kind of thing.
With Pariah at the helm, which is a fun addition. But yeah, so it's fun. I feel bad because I think that this book is mired in it's got a lot of uphill battles to fight for it to win back readers. Like this, if this book had come out at any point in the last 15 years, people would be losing their minds. And instead it's just kind of like, here. And it's just, I think we have to thank Metal for that. I think we have to thank the pandemic for that. I think we have to thank like the seemingly directionless authority of DC Comics, the mergers, everything. Like, I think that DC Comics is just like perpetually in a state of flux since DiDio and company. It's not just DiDio, but like other elements, other facets of DC Comics ousting made this company just kind of like seem like it's just running on fumes, despite the fact that like the creative teams are super strong and the books that are coming out, like they haven't had like every year they have like an Eisner contender or 3 ready to go, and it's like they're good. These are good books, and Dark Crisis is no exception. It looks great. It's got fun stakes, fun character moments. I think you're gonna enjoy it if you like DC.
Sweet, yeah. I'm hoping that this one definitely grabs people back, because like you said, a lot of these other crises, including both Metal events, definitely wore people out and kind of became they don't matter. Why should I care as much? Because they've proven that they don't necessarily matter.
matter.
And we've had a lot of, personally speaking, slow build up to the Dark Crisis, so I'm glad that it starts off pretty strong from the sound of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of a lot of character interaction. There's not a lot of like, there's punching, but it's like, it's minor. It's not
Right.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But there is a checklist at the end, which you can see like, oh, this is where it's going. This is what's going to be involved. But yeah, cool stuff.
All right.
How about you? Anything you read today that came out this week?
Yeah, so I read the Flashpoint Beyond issue, which
I didn't read that yet. How is it?
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not like amazing, but it definitely has picked up a bit more now that we've got like Thomas Wayne. It's entirely on Thomas Wayne this time, so you don't get any of that like kind of awkward back and forth to Bruce.
Good.
And yeah, it was a lot nicer because it just felt like it flowed better. It's really interesting to see Thomas investigating in the Thomas Wayne Batman kind of way, but also with the mindset of nothing matters, nothing I do matters. Once this gets fixed, this universe is gone. And he goes pretty dark, and so it's It was a solid issue. I'm glad that it was entirely on Thomas. We do get a little of Bruce at the end to kind of remind you of where he's at. But overall, I thought that one was really good. And then I also read the Dark Knights of Steel #7.
Great.
That comic just overall has been so fun. If you like those medieval, very twisted in terms of like normal characters don't act in the way that they traditionally do.
Sure.
And I mean, it's Tom Taylor, so you know he's going to do some crazy stuff with it, but I've been enjoying that one a lot. I enjoy seeing where he puts different groups of people. The fact that Bruce wakes up on the Kent farm in this. And so we've got it. It's fantastic. If you guys are reading it, 100%. This has been one of my favorite comics that's been coming out lately.
Yeah, it is a great exploration of character, and it's a fun, like, I need to catch back up because I think I'm 2 issues behind. But I love this series. It's so great. It's like Game of Thrones, but like a little less miserable.
Yeah, exactly. It's Game of Thrones, but better written.
I think so. Damn, shots fired.
I know, right?
But yeah, so going to our topics, we begin with Spider-Man turned 60 this past Sunday, June 5th, despite the fact that if you look at Amazing Fantasy 15, it says August on the cover. That means,
does it?
It does, but it's because comic books come out usually, like they print them like 2 months out. So, they expected it to be on newsstands in August. They had it out in June, so June 5th, 60 years old. Congratulations and happy birthday to Spider-Man. A lot of people took to Twitter, at least that's where I saw the most of the bulk of the celebration, was just posting art, and it's like, yeah, all right, fake character, he had turned 60 years old. Damn.
It's quite impressive. I'm surprised actually that I didn't see like a big celebration, like a celebration issue of some sort of like the best stories, or kind of one of those ones like they did with Superman. I want to say Action Comics 1000, where they got so many different characters or writers and like had them write their own story. I think that would have been great with Spider-Man, but
you're in luck because Amazing Fantasy number 1000 is actually coming in the next couple of months. And despite the fact I think the book got canceled like in the teens, like still in the teens, but I think just calling it Amazing Spider-Man 60th Anniversary Special would be the way to go, but instead they're doing the 1000 issue celebration. But it is the 60th. For Spider-Man's 60th birthday, they are publishing one of those, like Detective Comics or Action Comics type 1000 issues, just as we are still heading towards Amazing Spider-Man 1000.
Right. Sweet.
Because we're there. We're almost there.
Yeah. I still can't believe like he's been around for 60 years. Like I think is that one of Marvel's longest running is Spider-Man?
The Fantastic Four predate Spider-Man by a little bit. Okay. Namor is Marvel's oldest character. At least in continuity character. Unless you count maybe Captain America, but Cap again, like I think Cap's 41, so that makes sense. Yeah, I think either Cap or Namor or both are the oldest.
That's awesome. I can't wait for this 60th anniversary one because I personally enjoyed that Superman one. I liked just those different stories. It's always nice seeing a bunch of different writers give their take on the character in just a little one-off.
Oh, me too. No, the Action Comics one is so awesome. Detective was fun, but like the Action Comics one, you saw some art for Superman you've never seen or that that wouldn't exist without it. And I'm hoping Spider-Man is the same thing, where we just see some stuff where like, wow, like people are giving that their all, because you can't get some of like these top tier artists to do like a regular everyday Spider-Man fill-in or one shot, but they can do a page or two, and that'd be really cool. So I'm excited to see where it goes with that. But that's on the horizon. It's coming, but it's not here yet. Right. Despite being in the Disney brand now, Deadpool 3 has been confirmed, according to Dan and his research from comicbook.com, to be rated R, with writers stating, quote, "They're going to let Deadpool be Deadpool." Any more insight into Deadpool 3, or is that kind of the
that
only...
that was kind of it. I put that one in there because I know a lot of people, when Disney did get control of Marvel, a lot of people were kind of like, are they going to tone things down too much? Are they going to like affect those different properties? And so I threw this one on there because I'm very happy to hear that they're not going to touch Deadpool. They're going to let them write it the way that they want to write it. Obviously, they're going to have some oversight and be like, okay, let's not do some of these scenes, but like still give them a good amount of freedom to really go all Deadpool.
Yeah,
so
I think
I was really happy about that.
Me too. I love that they are at least sticking to their guns as far as like, no, Deadpool, because I mean the reality is there are a number of Marvel characters that you could easily, and not like force, but rather just genuinely from their perspective make R-rated properties. Mm-hmm. Punisher, obviously, you can make an R-rated show or movie. Deadpool is one of those characters, but rather than try and force it or lean into it, they're just like, Deadpool is going to be Ryan Reynolds. It's going to probably lean towards that anyway. Let's not even question whether we're going to censor him or dial it back or ask him nicely. Like, you can tell, by the way, from things like Free Guy and that other one that I saw and don't remember the name of, where it's time travel. I think it's directed by the same guy.
Oh, the Adam Project?
Adam Project, thank you. Both are technically movies that exist and are made, and they are technically entertaining. They have all the things that they are very much in the style of like, they look like Marvel audition tapes is what they look like. And I would not be surprised if, number one, as I understand it, that director is going to come back for Deadpool 3, which is a shame, but at the same time, with Deadpool 3, you can do so much with it, just from the perspective of looking at the last two Deadpool movies, also set against the Marvel Universe, also with Ryan Reynolds. Like, I think it's been how many years has it been since Deadpool 2? At least like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's got to have been a decent amount of time.
Right? So it's like, I think that with all of these, not restrictions, but rather like caveats, Deadpool 3, despite the fact that it's made by a director who is practically filming SNL sketches at this point, might find their voice. And Reynolds, of course, is like intimately involved with the character and with the production of those movies. And so my genuine hope is that it's at the very least a fun movie. Like it, right? Because that's what Deadpool is, right? Like Deadpool is not like as much as it's set in the Fox X-Men universe. It's not like it was in any way like a successor, a follow-up, a teaser, like a placeholder. It was just a movie, and it happened to be in the Fox universe. And occasionally you'd see references, but by and large, it's about Wade, maybe Vanessa. Like, that's kind of it,
right?
And I'm hoping that this is like, we have something to say about Wade. We have something to say with Deadpool. Obviously, Deadpool set against the Marvel Universe is why everyone is why more than usual might be more excited to see a Deadpool 3.
Right.
If they could, because I mean, in every Deadpool movie, there's been a character or two. In the last one, or the first one, I should say, Colossus was kind of like the big surprise, right?
Yep.
In 2, Juggernaut, I think, was the big deal.
Juggernaut and Cable.
X-Force, Cable X-Force, that kind of thing. if they were to adhere to that same tradition, who would you expect or want to see in Deadpool 3 in that kind of capacity?
See,
if they could get anybody.
Right. In my head, I would love if they did their own Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe.
Oh.
And use the alternate versions of the different characters. So we get like Edward Norton come back as the Hulk and have like Deadpool killing all of these different versions of the characters. And then like they could very easily have it be like at the very end, he wakes up from a dream like, oh, that was crazy. But I think if anything, it would be fun to see in a more realistic, but also not realistic, Tom Holland show up as Spider-Man.
Yes. I think that if they want to make $1 billion with a Deadpool 3, put Spider-Man in it. Now that's, and what's interesting is that's a deal with Sony more than Marvel, but I'd be okay with it. Like, I think that Sony would very much be okay with it, especially in the wake of the Morb. But, yeah, I think based on Chris Evans's cameo in Free Guy, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Captain America, like a thing. The question is, like, how are they going to put Deadpool in the Marvel Universe, if they even bother? Are they going to say it's multiversal? Are they going to say it's because of Loki and Doctor Strange? Or are they just going to go, oh, no, it's always been there? I mean, the helicarrier is in Deadpool 1, Hydra Bob. Like, there's ways you could just say, like, oh, no, it's all been there. And just ignore it.
I would not be surprised if they did something like that where they don't make a big deal or anything. They just, like, show one thing and have him be like, oh, yeah, I forgot that happened. And that's it. Like, if they just, like, reference the Thanos snap or something like that. And he's like, oh, man, I thought my healing factor works on everything, but I guess I'm back from the... What are they calling it these
or whatever
days?
they're calling it.
Yeah.
Snap. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I would also see him, like, coming back from his time travel trip being like, oh, man, what did I screw up?
That would be good, too.
Suggest that, like, maybe all of the MCU is because he's been mucking around in time. But yeah, Deadpool 3. Again, they're like, oh, it's going to be R. Do you have a script? Do you have a plan? A date?
Right.
Can we get one? Because it's not like Deadpool is like, it requires all this finagling and all this work. It's just have Ryan Reynolds grab the suit out of his closet, because we know he has one, come to the set, and shoot the damn thing. I mean, if they're smart, they'll keep it intimate and fun and focused. Because I think more people like Deadpool 1 than 2. And I think it's honestly, I feel like it's because it was smaller. I think it was just more focused. I don't know.
I think it's exactly that, as well as you really got the feel of Deadpool, where I feel like Deadpool 2, the story felt a little forced at times, where you're kind of like, okay, it's clear you're just trying to get this plot rolling, which is fair. Right. This is a movie. But like the first one felt very Deadpool in the sense of it's just Deadpool. Like that's really it. Like there's no... I mean, honestly...
There's no junk. There's no fat in that movie.
Exactly.
It's just very focused.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home wins 2 awards at the MTV Movie Awards this Sunday. Best Movie, and Tom Holland won Best Movie Performance for his role as Spider-Man. I have no problem with it. I can imagine people immediately being like, Best Movie! It's like, it's the MTV Movie Awards, folks. Like, come on. Like, if it was ever going to win Best Movie, it was going to be because of the MTV. I mean, you know, the Snyder Cut got an Oscar for Best Fan Audience Reaction thing. Like, you know, based on polls on the internet. I mean, I can imagine, it's... Do they even televise that anymore?
I don't know. I don't know if they televise it. I don't know if it like went on YouTube. I honestly didn't even know that it happened. Like usually when this kind of stuff happens, I see it like trending on Twitter or something like that. Like, oh, this movie got this. This movie didn't get this. How on earth would they? And then I was just found this in the news, and I'm like, wait, that happened? Because I didn't even really hear of anyone getting nominated. Like no one was like, hey, we got nominated for 13 different things. It's like everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that happened. Okay, no one cares. Let's move on.
No, I honestly, I didn't even know MTV still even did the movie awards. Although I will say, as a kid, I appreciated them because those were the only movies that I watched that ever got acknowledgement from any awards.
Right.
You know? I was like, hey, I know that movie. Thank you. You know, Starship Troopers, okay. But this, no. I'm surprised they even still do it. I mean, MTV, I'm surprised it's even still a channel.
100% agreed there, because...
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if if MTV just went, okay, so we're leaving TV, so that's that. MTV is just going to be a brand, right? They go full digital with it, where it's like MTV is a brand. You can buy MTV related merchandise at the MTV website, and MTV makes some very scaled down version of itself on the internet. You know, it's a streaming, not a streaming service, but rather just like it's a streaming thing, like G4, what G4 became.
G4 TV. I enjoyed G4. But yeah, they definitely did the right direction. I agree with what you're saying. Like MTV, I feel like they're like just very barely hanging on, trying to stay as an actual channel. And like you said, they're known for the brand. They're known for being MTV. They're no longer known for any of their shows. I could not name a single
One
show
show
that they do.
That's on now. Like, I could name a dozen shows that they've made.
Right.
But I couldn't possibly tell you if any of them are even still in production, much less being aired on that channel. As opposed to just being like, I could imagine, do you have Pluto TV at home? Because I watch a little bit of Pluto TV, which is just, it's free TV, it's got its own crappy ads, and it's just like it's like free TV, but it's like random channels like the Paramount channel or the Star Trek channel or the MST3K channel or whatever, and or the game show channel. I can imagine MTV having a channel where it's just like, here's just stuff that MTV greenlights that's just like, you can play whatever, I don't care. Right. I mean, there's an MTV. I think there's there's either a Nickelodeon or an MTV cartoon channel where it's like it's just Beavis and Butthead and Daria and other cartoons that we used to own. Go ahead, watch those. But because didn't G4 launch a YouTube channel or something like that, and they're on there? I know they went
online somewhere, only because they grabbed some talents from some esports that I watched, and so they grabbed some of those people that I really enjoyed. That's the only way that I found out about G4 TV doing anything again.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly it is, though.
Right. No, me either. I heard about it. I remember them soliciting, and I knew people who auditioned. But outside of that, I don't. I'm like, yeah, G4 getting a YouTube channel. That's a great idea. 10 years ago.
Yep.
And MTV doing it. Like, hey, you'd only be 20 years late to the party.
Mentioning MTV, and I feel like if they stayed on the air, they honestly could go back to music.
Right.
Like, if they went back to actual just music videos and stuff like that, they would become another channel that people keep on in the background.
Seriously, now that we have normalized, I mean, it's already been normalized, the concept of like, I put something on and then I walk away, I do laundry or whatever, I play, I do homework or whatever it is. MTV just playing music. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it would be kind of cheaper if MTV just went, we're canceling everything, all our scripted crap. We're just going to play music videos. Maybe at like from like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., we'll play reruns of Beavis and Butthead watching music videos.
Right.
Just to be a little more subversive. But after that, it's just going to be music. It's just going to be like Fuse or whatever. Like, just here. Just please play music and that's it. Maybe like different times of the day or different blocks. I don't know. So it's basically just a radio station at this point.
Exactly. It's just a radio station with music videos, and I think it would do so much better than it's currently doing.
I think you're right. That's not a bad idea. It'd be so funny. What a revolutionary concept. Well, MTV needs to find relevance. What'll it do? Do what you did 35 years ago. What, 35 years ago? Okay. That's new now. So here we go, finally getting into this Nintendo thing. Nintendo files a new copyright document for 2 new companies, Nintendo Studios and M Brothers Productions, implying that the video game company is planning to do more movies in addition to the currently planned Mario Brothers movie coming in 2023. This is another... Hey, speaking of ideas that should have happened 30 years ago. Right? I mean, why isn't there a Breath of the Wild-esque Zelda show?
Right. show or movie. Like you could easily, with so many of the Nintendo properties,
Yeah.
all of them work so well in movie format because, let's be honest, the cutscenes in those are basically movies.
Yes.
They could use those for transition movies. Like, give us like a movie of what actually happens between Breath of the Wild 1 and the upcoming Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but I saw that, and first I found it hilarious that they went with M Brothers.
Brothers.
it's kind of like when you're just trying to sound a little more official, and you don't want to go with the Mario Brothers. So it's the M
I love
Brothers.
that. That's so smart because also, like, you know, we've seen what happens when you create a production company that's named after real people. I cite the Weinsteins. The Mario Brothers are never going to be involved in a sex scandal. So it's a great idea to connect your production team to just a pair of fictitious plumbers.
Right.
But like, look at like the possibilities are endless. Where it's Nintendo Studios, just like yes, you could do because you know Zelda spans multiple timelines, so you could do any adaptation. You know, you could do Breath of the Wild could be a movie, like a straight up film, whereas you know, like A Link to the Past could be a show. You know, Skyward Sword could be something else. Any of those could be their own adaptations. Kirby has a cartoon. Mario Brothers have a cartoon.
Oh my gosh,
Donkey Kong
cartoon?
gets a show. Yeah, a Kirby show. I think
so
I'm
good.
sure. I am certain there's some kind of animated Kirby thing in Japan because they love Kirby over there.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like, just imagine like a Brain Age themed educational show on Netflix or something. You know, like Animal Crossing, everything.
Do a Smash Bros. Like anthology style show where like you've got everyone and just make random stories that don't have to matter with anything else. Like there is so much potential there, and I'm actually really glad that they solidified and went, you know what? Let's do it. Like let's just go all in on this.
Especially because like now is the time. Like, well, really 5 years ago was the time because we're in a place where it's like everything is adapted, everything's a franchise, and everything will be filmed at some point. I forgot to mention Metroid.
That would be a fantastic
like
movie series, probably.
Right? Movie series, you could do The Right Thing, you know, instead of Halo, you know, where it's like but a Halo approach to the Metroid series where it's just a series but about that.
Let's not compare it to Halo because that gives me zero hope for something good.
Before it came out, that's a great pitch as a Halo show.
Yeah.
So, you know, a Metroid series about like just the ongoing adventures of her, like that'd be kind of cool. But I'd also just watch like a trilogy starring like Anya Taylor-Joy as Samus, just 3 flicks of her putting on that dope armor and killing Mother Brain.
Make it kind of like
Metroids.
horror-esque.
Like Dead Space, but like a little less edge.
Yeah.
Speaking of, where the hell did that Dead Space movie go? How come we never got a Dead Space movie? It's not really related. But and not to mention, I mean, like Pokemon. Like we got one movie that is probably the best video game adaptation in film.
Yeah.
Is that Pokemon movie.
The first one, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the live action one with
Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu.
Oh my gosh, that was
like it was fine.
So
it was
good.
just it was so innocuous and so cute and the Pokemon looked fantastic and it's like you could, and if you create that world, like the world of Detective Pikachu is just like you could do anything. You could do a live-action version of the original Pokemon movie with Ash. You could not. You could do anything. Like, you could do a horror movie about Mew. You could do a cute movie about, like, this Homeward Bound, but just with Pokemon in it. Like, you could do anything in that world because Pokemon is so versatile. And it's just like, what the hell are you waiting for? So, yeah, brilliant idea. I'm my problem, my only concern is that, like, when you think about the Mario movie and who's cast in it, and it's like,
right,
is it brilliant? Or, like, because I think it's either a completely out of touch approach to Mario, right, where it's like, we'll get Chris Pratt and Jack Black and, you know, Keegan-Michael Key or whatever. It's like, but you could do that, or it's super cynical. where they're like, we need to make another Mario Brothers movie. We need to make it work. We need to make it sell. Just cast, and they put into an algorithm, like, most marketable voices in Hollywood.
Right.
And they were like, the first 10 came out, and they're like, done. Just Shrek it.
Yeah. The Mario Bros is definitely going to be, if they plan on doing Nintendo, like, movies and shows and stuff, the Mario Bros is going to set the standard of either people are going to be like, this is going to be amazing, or people are going to be like, I don't trust you. I'm not going to give you really any faith with this. But I mean, based on the way that we have seen a lot of games being adapted into movies lately, like you said, Detective Pikachu.
Oh, Sonic.
The Sonic movies. Yeah, like, it's clear that the age group that truly played and grew up with these games have reached the point that they are the ones writing and producing and all of that of these movies, so they really get them. And so I'm super excited for this.
Same.
It's gonna be good.
I hope it. I hope we see more about this. Like, I hope this isn't like the only thing that we hear about this, and then it's like, well, we tried that, but then we threw it away. Like,
right.
I'm hopeful for it. Getting to comic adaptations again, there's a strong chance that the Disney Plus Daredevil reboot will take on a much lighter tone than the Netflix series, which I don't think anybody is surprised to hear.
Yeah.
The Netflix series was rated TVMA. But it's looking like Disney Plus will most likely align with leaning towards a PG-13 rating, with writers implying that the show will be more aligned with the Mark Waid run for the character. I actually saw a reference to this apropos the Mark Waid adaptation. Somebody was like, if you hear someone say they're going to try and hit a lighter tone like the Mark Waid run, then they didn't read the Mark Waid run, because that book was pretty dark. And I'm like, no, not nearly as dark as the show, as the Miller adaptations, as Zdarsky's. Like, it is maturer than, say, I don't know, what Ms. Marvel probably will feel like.
Yeah.
And it takes itself seriously. But you can't deny that the Mark Waid run, all three of them, from the 90s to the Samney run, have been lighter in tone. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's fine, because I don't want them to do Miller's run again. Yeah. You know? I don't want them to just redo the Netflix show. And I really don't want to see Disney Plus try and go hard. They're just incapable of doing it.
Especially with a character where I feel like going in the TV MA for Disney, it would feel very forced. Because at the end of the day, he doesn't need to be MA. Like, with Daredevil, there's so much you can do that you don't need to make it mature. You've also got so many different ways of doing the cinematography to kind of, you can remove blood from it, because you do it in that like style where you see like all red vision for Daredevil.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah, that's true.
Like, you can be really creative those factors. And so,
I mean, the fact is, the comic books themselves are not hard R-rated books. Like, if you wanted to, it would be funny to see them do a full-on, faithful adaptation of a comic book run, and then have someone say, "Oh, they really toned it down." It's like, the books were up against a Comics Code Authority for the first 40 years of their existence. So all the stories you like from Daredevil are pretty much against it until they weren't, like until the Marvel Knights run. And even then, they still have their own censorship in place. It's not nearly as dark or as hard as you expect. And I don't think that just because it's suddenly being transferred to live action, it needs to be a harder edge. Mm-hmm. In order to like match up. It's Daredevil here. It's a dude who wears a big red costume and punches ninjas. We're not talking about making this like a super dark it's not Seven. Right. You know what I mean?
Plus, like, I feel like going in that lighter tone will really allow them to be like, no, this is separate. This is a completely different thing. Like, we don't have to worry about people constantly. Is it the same universe? I don't know. Are they going to reference this? Are they going to do that?
They're saying it is. Like, they're saying it's already, like, no, that show happened.
I've heard both. I've heard, I don't know if it was actually you saying the theory that the Netflix stuff happened like before the Thanos snap.
Yeah, that was my.
And like the
yeah, I
Disney Plus
suggested.
will be after.
Yeah, what a
I think
mistake that
would
was
be
to suggest that on the internet. Because I was like, wouldn't it be great if they just set all the Netflix shows during the blip?
Yeah.
That's why it's like tonally it's so much darker, why nobody else shows up in them, why no one else references them. And you got to finagle the timeline a little bit, because nobody talks about the blip in the shows.
Right.
And they reference stuff. Well, they only reference the first Battle of New York. They don't talk about Ultrons and stuff, but nobody else does either. So whatever. Just a little bit of creative finagling. You know what that is? That's the most comic book you can be, because it's called a retcon.
Yep.
And you can just retcon those shows to be like, those shows happen, they're in continuity, and they all took place during like the 5-year gap that was super dark. And wouldn't that be kind of cool if any elder statesman of the MCU shows up, bumps into Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and goes, hey, man, like, I heard that you were really holding down the fort when we were gone. I mean, that'd be kind of dope.
That would be.
That'd also allow for some of the best casting in the MCU to be, to continue. Luke Cage's casting, Jessica Jones's Daredevil, everyone from the Daredevil show. I think that's a good idea. But we got a lot of pushback online where they're like, that wouldn't make any sense because no. And I'm like, yeah, I know no, but like, what if yes? Think about it for a
Right.
second.
I love that idea. Honestly, I think that's the coolest way and like the most comic book way to really keep that in continuity without having to really let it sway what you're going to do in the future with it. Because obviously, like you said, it's darker during those 5 years, but when everyone's back and the snap like goes back to normal, people are happier again. It's kind of like that, wow, like life can get better again.
Well, plus these characters can go back to be like getting out of the way, or maybe they're like now in the wake of Endgame, they're like, well, things haven't really changed much for me. I do have double the amount of people I got to protect or fight, but still, somebody, I think it's Flashpoint, mentioned that like maybe they can retcon that the incident they keep talking about isn't the Battle of New York, but in fact is the snap. That is such a better idea than them carefully avoiding talking about the Battle of New York.
Right.
Like, I'm okay with that.
It's going to be good. I'm actually starting to get more and more excited for this Daredevil series. At first, I was kind of like, okay, like what are we really going to do with this? But the more and more I hear about it, I'm getting more faithful for it.
Yeah.
So.
And I should say, we don't know what's coming back from the Netflix series, but we do know that, I mean, like, first of all the Netflix shows were brought to Disney Plus, and they cast Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and they're in officially sanctioned, licensed, and promoted and successful Marvel projects. So is it only a matter of time? Not necessarily, but I genuinely hope it is. Because I also would love to see, in the wake of the last episode of the last season of the last episode of Punisher, that Frank in New York.
Yeah. And
wouldn't it be cool if they were like, yeah, no, there's a crazy person in a t-shirt shooting everybody, and, he's... because Punisher operates in the underbelly of New York. Nobody ever talks about him, or when they do, it's because he like killed a bunch of people that the superheroes don't normally swing in to fight. And so as a result, it's like you can get away with just being like, there's a lunatic on the loose, and he is really vicious. And you don't have to show any of that. You wait for the Punisher show or Punisher movie, because if Deadpool 3 is in fact R-rated, they could remember when they used to make Marvel movies and it was pre-MCU or during the MCU and they weren't sure what to call them? And so in order to imply their harder edge, Ghost Rider and Punisher Warzone were both called Marvel Knights. And instead of the red logo with the page flipping, it was black. And it said, and Knights appeared underneath the Marvel logo. It was their way of like just differentiating. Well, what if they create like not a sub studio, but just a label. So Deadpool's under the Marvel Max studio. And
basically the black label.
The black label, the Marvel Max. Marvel Max was the R-rated books.
Yeah.
But like Marvel Max was what Deadpool 3 is going to be produced under. The banner, that is. Punisher, we can make Marvel Max. Maybe that Blade movie Blade can show up in whatever the hell he's going to show up in, but if we're going to make a Blade movie, let's not like half-ass vampires here, folks.
Right.
I mean, like, Feige remembers, and I think Feige might have been involved, I don't remember, because you see his name all over old Marvel properties, but he remembers how successful Blade was, and Blade was R. There is money to be made in the R franchises, especially if Marvel is pretty much the brand that killed the mid-budget action picture. And wouldn't it be kind of awesome if Marvel brought it back by being like, we're going to make R-rated action movies for $45 million. Just, Punisher trapped in a build. It's just Dredd, but Punisher, $45 million. Go. That Marvel logo, Marvel brand, Marvel promotion, but everybody involved is like, hey, listen, don't take the kids to see Punisher. Let me tell you, it's going to be pretty hardcore. Right. Which is only going to make people want to go see Punisher more.
Oh, yeah.
Punisher, Deadpool, Blade, maybe even Ghost Rider. But all those Marvel Max production studio movies, R-rated, lean into it, but keep the budgets sensible.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea because giving it that different label, and it gives you so much more freedom. It really allows you to just kind of do what you want, keep it in the same universe, but also making it clear that it's its own thing.
Exactly. And the fact is, the comics have already set a precedent for those things. Like, everybody knows when you're reading comics that if Punisher shows up in a Spider-Man book, Frank's not going to be nearly as... The story, the tone, the theme, and the violence are going to be toned down, right? Or if they're not, it's to shock you. It's to be subversive. But for the most part, when Frank shows up in other people's books, it's not a Punisher book, so it's not as hard-edged. But when you go buy the Punisher comic, it is. So if you go see the Punisher movie, it's more hard-edged. But maybe, imagine, if you will, some other conflict where, like, the new Captain America needs a hardcore soldier, and so it's like in this like subversive Captain America number 4 or 5, you know what I mean? Where
Right.
Sam Wilson's like, I'm gonna need like somebody who's super trained, who knows how to like get the job done, and they call Frank, and it's like Frank shows up, but he's not gonna stab anyone in the eye, But that's okay because we have a movie where he does that, and 2 seasons of a show where he does that, But they still take place in the same universe, and we don't have this like weird, like, will they, won't they kind of uncertainty in your universe.
I love that. I'm excited. I love everything you just said. Like,
well, thank you.
That's how you get me. Let's just have them hire you to hype up like all of these, because those are some great ideas.
Thank you. And I don't know if they would work, but I'd like to see them at least try it, as opposed to saying things like, well, that would never work because. And it's like, because why? Because you've never done it before? Because that's the only reason. But Daredevil, I am hopeful. I'm not thrilled with how Kingpin was utilized in the Hawkeye show, but I was thrilled to see him, and leading up to his actual like scenes where he's fighting, they were pretty Kingpin to me. Yeah. And if you ever read the first altercation between Echo and Kingpin, it's exactly the same as in the comic book. Yeah. So, hopefully they're being more beholden, but I also really like Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, so like let's keep that going. Yeah. So that was Daredevil. I Am Groot shorts have gotten a release date of August 10th with recent tweets from Marvel. So, are you excited about Groot shorts?
If it's one of those ones, like I am a fan of like just like shorts. If they are fun, I'm picturing like if they are like those Pixar shorts that they do in front of movies where it's just a fun, lighthearted story. Yeah. That like doesn't really matter. I could see that working with just baby Groot. Yep. Doing one of those things. I think that would be great. But I also think there's a lot of stuff that they could probably do that would make it not fun. So I think if they go very innocent with it, very just, here's a fun little story, I think it'll do very well. If they try and force the kind of James Gunn style Guardians movies into a vibe with the Groot as its own little thing, I think maybe then I might be a little iffy on it, because if you don't have James Gunn, it's going to be obvious you don't have James Gunn.
That's very fair. Yeah, because Baby Groot has a little bit of an edge to him, right? It's not like making the Baymax show.
Right.
Where it's like, I know exactly what the tone's going to be for that show. I know exactly who that's for, and there's no question. Whereas Baby Groot, yeah, we know who we were selling Baby Groot to, but Baby Groot will choke someone out. Like, Baby Groot is a hardcore MFer. But I also couldn't care less about shorts, least of all Baby Groot shorts. It here's the thing. On one hand, it rings merchandising to me. For me, it's like, yeah, you gotta make. I mean, like, why did it take so long? Baby Groot's been a thing for, like, what, 5 years plus? You know?
It's been a long time since he's been Baby Groot, yeah.
He's been Baby Groot. He was Baby Groot way too long, in my opinion. But, and to now suddenly be like, what was he doing? What was he up to being a baby back then? Like, I not an answer I need, but I also know that they ain't selling that to me, so it doesn't bother me in the least. Like, I don't need to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe completist and be like, well, I need to know what happens to Baby Groot so that it explains to me the Guardians unit. Like, nobody should worry about it. You know, I think it's totally innocuous. I also know nothing, like, virtually. I don't know if it's him CG in a real world. I don't know if the whole world's CG. I don't know how long they're going to be. I know nothing about this outside of the fact that they made it. And then I remember when they announced it, and they were like, I am Groot. I barely even remember that they were shorts until I read the thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wish them well. That's one of those things where I just couldn't care less, to the point where I'm like, knock yourself out, make 100 episodes.
Right.
I'm not interested. I'm not interested to the point. I'll never watch a single one. I might watch one just to see what it is, but only if I have literally nothing else to do. Like, it's one of those things.
That's
and I'm
fair.
like, all right. Like, it's hardly. It's so innocuous. There's like no problem with it.
I think one of the best ways that they could do this would be to make it one of those kids shows that parents enjoy watching as well.
Right.
I think because Groot is one of those characters that kids can latch on to. You can make toys, like they will love it. They can do everything. And if you make it one of those shows where they get what they want, but parents and adults can still watch it and get some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
I think there's some good potential, but I also think it was kind of a very interesting thing to randomly just be like, hey, by the way, this is a thing.
It reminds me of the moment when Marvel was purchased by Disney in the first place, and everybody was speculating about, like, what that might mean, right? And we were all like, oh my God, what are they going to do? And I feel like not getting Pixar to make the I Am Groot show is just a complete oversight.
Right.
You know, like because otherwise, like, the fact that they didn't get, like, Pixar to make a Groot series or a Groot, like 30 minutes of Groot shows, right? I'm shocked, because it is that is another one of those no-brainers where it's like, these people who work here are phenomenal storytellers, and they do exactly what you described, which is making something for children that adults can watch, right? And part of the fun of watching a Pixar movie is seeing the shorts that they procure/produce, and those are incredible. So Marvel making their own shorts, for me, is almost a little concerning, because it's like, is Marvel gonna try to create, like, a third animation studio?
Right.
That's gonna we're gonna be like the Marvel Pixar, where we're gonna make our own CG shows. Like, we'll have our own kind of, like, subversive adult/kid oriented, you know, property. I don't want them doing that, because I think that Disney's covered in that department. But but that's I can't think of any other reason why they would not just outsource the damn thing. You know, especially in the wake of, like, what you heard Feige talking about, where he's like, we need another director for Fantastic Four, like like Sam Raimi, because I don't want to have to watch over their shoulder. I want, like, an accomplished seasoned filmmaker. And I'm like, I thought the reason you picked those people was because because they were the right people for the job. Like, you mean to tell me you could have at any point called people like Brad Bird, Steven Spielberg, like people who could make real films,
right,
to make these damn things because you're too lazy to show up? Like, then just give Pixar the Groot franchise and be like, okay, well, I know you'll be what the worst it'll ever be is like the Good Dinosaur, you know? But because it's Groot, it'll sell better than the Good Dinosaur. End of story. Like, we know it'll never be a Minions. It'll never be an Emoji Movie because it'll never get that bad. Seems good enough to me. Apropos of that, because we have a little bit of time, who would be your pick that Feige was talking about for the Fantastic Four movie?
For directors?
Yeah.
Oh, I am not the best with picking. I'm not great with names of like the behind the scenes people. I will say
a movie
though,
that like needs to have that feel that you were like, this the guy who made such and such should make Fantastic Four.
Right. Well, before I answer that, because you said something that I wanted to comment on.
Go ahead.
The Kevin Feige not wanting to look over the shoulder. I have a feeling that he did that on those first ones of really wanting to be there so he could set the tone.
Yes.
So that you can grab these people who are really big and basically be like, you know the formula. Now you can do what you want. You don't go, okay, like, be careful with your vision. I understand you like going in your own direction, but
yeah.
God, picking a good director, though, for Fantastic Four, because I feel like Fantastic Four, you gotta have it's gotta have a feeling of being serious with comedic relief, because obviously Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm, those two are going to be kind of the more comedic relief, but you can't have it funny.
Right.
Like you can't make it a
it's
funny movie.
It's not a comedy.
Exactly. It's not a comedy. It's a lot more well thought out, a lot of actual science behind it. You want to make it so that Mr. Fantastic truly feels like the most intelligent person in the world.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other movies that I've seen that I think would be a really good director. Did you have one in mind?
Oh, I mean, I've always pitched. I mean, you get the guy who made the best Fantastic Four movie of all time, Brad Bird, who directed The Incredibles, to do it, because Brad Bird has directed live-action movies as well, and he made The Iron Giant, and he gets tone, he gets family, he gets ensembles. That would be great.
Could see that.
But then you think about like, oh, I want somebody who would actually like do a really good ensemble picture, somebody who knows like how to juggle a cast, but also tell like a cohesive story. And it's like, well, if you want to name, like Steven Soderbergh couldn't be too bad at doing a Fantastic Four movie. He did Ocean's 11.
Okay.
And honestly, like I would never have said this in 2017. But in the wake of Knives Out, maybe Rian Johnson would be a good pick for Fantastic Four, since he did such a good job with Knives Out and telling like a story about a bunch of characters and juggling their performances and these different types of actors and stuff like that. I mean, like that's just a couple, but like my number one is Brad Bird, because I just was like, he made Incredibles, he knows what's up. Although I am concerned because he also worked on Incredibles 2, which I think is terrible.
Agreed. I think though that being said, I think because I like that you say who they've done, what they've done.
Right.
So that gives me that comparison.
Well,
I think he would
did
do
Ghost
great.
Protocol, Tomorrowland. Like Tomorrowland, I loved Tomorrowland, so I think he'd do a really good job. Like, but anyway, go ahead.
I think he would be very solid for Fantastic Four, just because, like The Incredibles, you get to set the standard. Yeah. Maybe don't give him the Fantastic Four 2. Because, like you said, The Incredibles 2...
not so great.
Not the best movie.
But hopefully
he's already shown that he can do superheroes in a different light. So that would be a good one. That would be good.
And, and the hope would be that Fantastic Four 2 would have a different tone, maybe a different, like, direction or, whatever. I'm not interested in these directors who are like, let's break it. I immediately just had this flashback of, or a flash forward of like, okay, so Fantastic Four 2, they break up the team and it's shattered. So, it's like, no, man, no.
Do you think they would use potentially Fantastic Four to introduce the next big bad, which Galactus, obviously, kind of the next global threat that will bring all the different heroes together to unite and fight off Galactus?
That is... Galactus could be a Thanos, but he could also just be the big bad of the Fantastic Four franchise. Like, the Fantastic Four were the Avengers, pre-Avengers. In the original Avengers comic books, the Avengers used to talk about how much better the Fantastic Four were at what they did. So, like, to have this kind of this role reversal where in the wake of the death of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four kind of like step up as the new franchise, and you don't have to worry about like who's on the Fantastic Four. Like, this is the Fantastic Four. This is your team from the get-go. You know, Fantastic Four only exists because of the Justice League. You know, like they created the Justice League, and then Stan heard about it through the grapevine and was like, "Well, we'll have to make our own competitor for the Justice League." And it's funny because like the Fantastic Four have had a change in rosters over the years, but like everybody knows who the Fantastic Four are. Whereas everybody has their favorite version of the Justice League and the Avengers, but it's so like all over the place. It'd be kind of neat to set a tone where they're like, the next phase is the Fantastic Four. Here's the team. Here's the cast. Here's the world. And you could set up a thing where it's like Annihilus or Galactus. Hell, you could make it Terrax or something where it's like, what? And then it becomes this other thing, or you could have Galactus be alluded to in Guardians 3, which I feel like they probably will at this point. But, you know, I like the idea of them setting up the Fantastic Four where they're like, this is your Avengers. When the Avengers do return, they will be in a Fantastic Four like movie or setup. Like it'll be to fight a Fantastic Four foe, you know, or not. Maybe the next time the Avengers show up, it's the new Avengers and it's led by, you know, Falcon, Captain America, and a bunch of kids, and it's like, you know, street level. You know, and they're like, you know, you guys deal with the giant purple man that's stepping on everything, and we'll fight the mole people or some other like threat to our to democracy. I don't know. I don't know, because the Marvel universe is in a weird place right now, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is. And so, like, and all of the things that set up the foundation, the bedrock of the original Marvel Comics universe, some of those essential pieces are missing. You know, so like, we're going to see Doctor Doom appear in a world where the mutants are new and the Avengers are gone and Thanos has already snapped, as opposed to Doom being like one of the first villains. You know, so it's like, we've seen Doom do everything, and now Doom can do something new. You know, now it's like Doom's like, what is all this? You know, Galactus is going to be like, what is all this? Silver Surfer could be a villain, you know, for a little while. They could do anything, and because the MCU is fun and versatile, they could do any number of Fantastic Four villains that you normally wouldn't think about. Blastar could be a villain that works. The Mole Man and the Moloids could be a thing. You know, like, it would just be... But I think if you had to pick between the two, or between the three, it's going to be Annihilus, Galactus, or Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Any one of those three could be your villain for the next whole phase. Like, that's their Thanos. Like, Doom being established... Like, Latveria is what Sokovia used to be, and so he takes over and he runs it, and he uses like fascistic tendencies to rally the people of Sokovia into becoming Latverian, and he like promises protection, and you know, there's this fascist in a green cape taking over parts of Europe. What are we gonna do about that? You know, that's a really fun threat. An idea of a planet-eating monster that's on his way here. Great threat. A interdimensional robot bug monster with a horde of horrible bug monsters that's on their way here, and like, that could be Guardians 3. It's not, but it could be, or it could be the end of Guardians 3, where it's like they do this thing and then they wake up Annihilus and he's on his way. But like, any one of those three things, the Fantastic Four are that big and that rich of a universe. It could all be that. Like, there's so much potential, but and that's I think a little daunting, you know, because some of us just want, you know, because also you need to make a fun, cohesive movie about these characters in one story, where it's just like, this is what they did. This is their beginning, middle, and end. This is their rising action, falling action, climax, and conclusion. Like, this is just a cohesive story that you can watch on its own. You know, I would love that.
Right.
So
I think it would be great if it was Doom personally, just because with everything that's happened in the Marvel universe, it makes a lot of sense why someone would be like, okay, I need to protect my people. Like the rest of the world clearly doesn't care. I'm going to take over my spot, make this my own thing. You can have it be one of those, while he's doing this, you got the Fantastic Four kind of forming, like doing their, like, coming to terms with who they are and stuff.
Sure.
And then you can do the classic, Doom starts doing something that the world sees and goes, we should probably stop that.
Yeah.
But it turns out Doom has knowledge of Galactus or Annihilus, like something that's coming to Earth, and is prepping for it in his own way of like, no, this giant like cannon I've got, like this giant laser, this isn't for anyone else on Earth. I know what's coming towards Earth. Yeah. I'm smarter than the rest of you. Like, clearly I'm going to be the one to handle it. And there's so much potential. Like you said, there's so much potential with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so hyped for what they're going to do with it. I don't, and we know nothing. It's just the potential. It's actually like one of the few things we have about the MCU left where we're like, I don't know what they're going to do, and I don't know who they're going to make do it. Same with the mutants. I have no idea what they're going to do. You know, the closest thing we got is Deadpool. We still don't have a Wolverine. We got nothing.
Yeah.
And finally, I asked you to talk about this because I'm excited about it. Predator's getting another sequel. It's called Prey. It's more like a prequel. Predator versus Comanches. The trailer just dropped today, and what did you think of the trailer that I made you watch?
I actually enjoyed it. So I haven't seen much of the Predator franchise.
You don't need to. They're not very good. The first two are the best, and then you're done.
Yeah, I've seen like scenes here and there from my dad watching, and just like walking in, seeing it, and then just going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
It looks good. Honestly, I got kind of hyped for it. At first my thought was, because I didn't know that it was connected to Predator, my first thought was,
that looks a lot like a Predator.
This is Predator, right? Like I see the red dots, and it's an invisible foe. Like, that's got to be what this is. But I like when they do stories like this, and it's not present day,
right?
Or if it is present day, it's not.
It's removed. Yeah.
It's removed. You don't have to worry about guns and stuff. Like, I feel like guns sometimes in movies like this, they really simplify it, make it very clear we need bigger guns. But no, like having it with like the strategy and like the tactics that she used in the trailer, it looks pretty good.
No, it's just my assumption is it's more or less the third act of Predator 1 stretched across 90 minutes. Like that's my expectation, at least. It's the hope is it's, because it's set in the past, it has no bearing on the future. It's not going to be like a sequel bait. It's just what Predator needs. Now, if you're not familiar, Predator franchise became a franchise after 87 when they made this movie about an alien that fights Arnold Schwarzenegger and a bunch of other equally badass people. Then they made a sequel that was kind of like the same movie, but in the urban jungle of like a futuristic Los Angeles in the far-off future of 1997. And Danny Glover, different kind of hero. Like Danny Glover, obviously not the most ripped like warrior. He's not going to punch the Predator, and that's why it like became an interesting thing. Predator's another decent one where it was like, hey, cool, they went to a hunting planet instead of them coming here. But the thing that makes Predator, I think people's like, anybody likes Predator, it's because of the first two movies, but more important because of the comic books and the adaptations from like Dark Horse that have followed, which is just exploring their universe and seeing AVP and stuff like that. And it's like, Predator works best, not unlike a Die Hard formula. I've talked about Predator a lot, so I can just recite it from heart. But like, the best Die Hard movies are other scripts that are adapted into Die Hard movies. Literally, they're just like, like Die Hard was obviously based off a book, but it was also adapted from another screenplay. Die Hard 2, same deal. Die Hard 3, with a Vengeance, exactly the same thing. All different movies that were just like, here's a movie, but it has a star, I don't know. And then they went, well, what if we make it John McClane? Oh, now we got a movie.
Right.
And they're good. But when they write them as Die Hard movies, like 4 and 5, not so good. Not so beloved. Predator is... You need to look at a movie and go like, is this movie about something else and then a Predator shows up, because that's how the formula works perfectly. Like,
right.
Predator 1 is the Russians are providing weapons and money to guerrilla soldiers in South America to go across the border, and a elite squad of badasses go to kill them. And it's like, that's a movie from 87. That's just a movie you could watch.
Right.
But then, about a third of the way through the picture, a Predator shows up and throws a monkey wrench in the whole movie. And then it becomes about that. Predator 2, there's a gang war between these two factions, and it's ruining LA, and LA is being destroyed by these two gangs. And then a Predator shows up. Like, but Predators, it's fine, but it's like, it's about a planet where predators are. Predator AVP is about pyramids and predators and aliens. When you make it about the thing, it doesn't work. Predator Prey, which is this Predator movie, is about this young Comanche warrior or female who wants to be a warrior, who's out to prove to her tribe that she can handle it. And then a Predator shows up. Like, that's the move. That's, yes. Like, and you can pitch any Predator movie or show where it's like, oh, like, there's a Ronin whose family was slaughtered, and he's trying to, like, make his way, and he's trying to, survive and just eke out an existence and die slowly in feudal Japan in the countryside. And then a Predator starts killing the young men in the village, and he's got to go for one last ride with his samurai sword and kill a Predator. That's awesome. There's a bunch of pirates, and they're on a pirate ship, and they had something, and then a Predator shows up with a pirate ship and kills everybody. Like, that's every movie. There's a young sheriff in an old west, and in an old town, and he's got a dark secret, and there's this gunslinger who's there, who's hired by the person who he wronged back in his past, during his days as a cavalryman for the Civil War, and then a Predator shows up. Like, that's every movie is just this kind of interesting action movie. But then a big, awesome space alien shows up to punch or shoot them with a laser cannon. And then each of the protagonists crawls into the wilderness and kills it with a rock. That's every movie, and it would make $1 million. Like, it doesn't cost much to make these movies. Right. And that's the thing. And so my hope, despite the fact that it's coming out on Hulu, is that, like, this movie does well enough. I don't know how you even quantify that, for them to go, oh, Predator movie should cost $30 million.
Right.
Like, don't go nuts with Predator. You cast stuntmen and prop people and a dude in a suit, and that's the movie. Stupid. Anyway, but I'm very hyped for Prey, as you can tell. Thank you for indulging me. Go see Prey on August 6th or 5th. And show them.
It's soon.
August.
Okay,
yeah, August.
Wow.
I think August 5th. But check it out on Hulu August 5th and show them that we want more Predator movies like this and not like The Predator, which is easily the worst one in the franchise.
I will say that the small bit of optimism of it being on Hulu,
right?
Because obviously, if this came out on Hulu a couple years ago, there would be no faith. Honestly, there would be no faith, because I think we all know Hulu has kind of gone downhill in quality.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the fact that they are aware of that and they're trying to revitalize gives this so much more potential.
I don't think this is even a Hulu movie. I think this was a movie that Fox was working on when they were purchased by Disney. And Disney went, oh, crap, I don't know what to do with this movie. We can't put it on Disney Plus, even though they could, because they have the parental controls now. The problem is that, like, probably 2/3 of the Disney Plus subscription owners don't know about it, so they would never even see it. So it's like, where do we put it? Well, we own Hulu, put it on Hulu. I think that's what it is. But it's just quickly being shuffled away.
Because we did get Marvel owns Predator now, I believe.
Yes,
was
and
this
Marvel
potentially a part of that original deal, like along with MODOK and
no, it
those
was
other
not.
Canceled shows? It's
no,
not. Okay.
No, they weren't part of, like, the Hulu deal. It was more Marvel got the license for Predator after Disney acquired Fox, because I guess they want synergy, and so they were releasing a Predator book to coincide with the release of Prey, the movie, and it was just clandestinely, just to capitalize on the cachet of the movie coming out. But then the original writers of Predator sued Disney because they sued Fox originally for ownership of the franchise again, or really just to make bank, just to get some like a big fat check.
Right.
And so Disney had to deal with it, and as a result, they delayed both Prey and the book. So that's why in July you'll be getting a new Predator series from Marvel, like a full 2 years after the Alien book came out, and a full year at least since they released the covers, like the variant covers for Predator, the comic book, which featured a slew of different Marvel characters fighting Predators. That does not mean they're announcing a Predator versus Marvel comic book of any kind, just a way of celebrating that they own the Predator license. But it's back on the menu, so we're getting a Predator book in July, and we're getting a Predator movie called Prey in August. But no, I don't think it's like... It was not in production by Disney. That was like a Fox thing that happened to be purchased or happened to be procured, and they were like, oh, crap, I have a franchise movie. I don't know what to do with this.
Right.
Like, you know, I think that's the same thing with with the Adam Project. Like, that was one of those things where it's like, that was not Disney's, and then they got it as a result, and they were like, oh, here. So there you go, Predator, yay!
All right. Well,
what's happening? What's happening on Dan's channels / plans? Anything big and good coming out?
On my personal stuff?
Yeah, on your stuff. Like, you know, talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I've been venturing into playing app games again. So like mobile phone games on my stream, Fox Toast X, and honestly, I love it because I get to talk and just interact with people in chat, and I don't have to worry about talking, going to do something else, talking, and it's so fun. I've been having a blast. If you guys do want to stop by, it is twitch.tv/FoxToastX. It's been a great time. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Nice. How are all your channels going?
They're going good, man. Our supplemental channel, our second channel, Comic Pop Returns, just hit a year back in May.
Oh, congrats!
So thank you very much. It's been a fun year, getting to continue to make multiple shows despite the algorithm. You know, now it's like the algorithm feeds that show or that channel. So youtube.com/ComicPopReturns is where you can get like shows like these. It's more live shows. There's a Zdarsky interview coming up pretty soon on that channel.
Oh, nice.
So you can check that out coming the next couple of days. And more. And of course, youtube.com/ComicPop. We've been trying the shorts out, and that's been going nicely. And back issues, of course. And now I'm like actually torn because I have a Predator book on the docket for back issues coming out. But I'm wondering if I should wait, if I should release it now based on the hype for the trailer for Prey, or if I should wait until August when Prey comes out to launch that episode.
Isn't that always? That's always the internal debate with YouTube stuff. Like, do you wait for the actual thing or the hype of the announcement of the thing?
Yeah, I feel like the announcement might be the way to go because there's more lead time. There's more time for things to come out about it.
Yeah,
and maybe it'll get swept up in it. So by the time the movie comes out, that episode is like part of the wave before it crashes on the rocks and then no one watches it ever again.
Right.
So,
I think that could be a good idea because then you also, like you said, the new comic.
Yeah, the new book,
and that might
July.
give you
a little bit more traction. Yeah,
exactly. So
that might be nice. But otherwise, you can of course subscribe here on Absolutely Marvel in DC, a channel where, right now it's on twitch.tv/Comicstorian. But when it's rebroadcast, it'll be on Absolutely Marvel in DC, a channel where we talk all about movies and comics and TV shows and stuff like that. So check it out if you haven't already. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time with another episode of Absolute Comics. I'm Sal. That's Dan. See you then.